What if the very tiredness you feel tonight is not exhaustion, but your soul's quiet rebellion against the noisy gentle insistence that something deeper is ready to emerge? Your body sinks into the softness of evening, yet beneath the familiar weight of the day's demands, something stirs. It's as if every muscle that aches, every thought that circles, every breath that feels too shallow is whispering the same tender truth. You are ready to remember what you have forgotten. The sheets welcome your weary limbs like old friends who understand without explanation. Your pillow cradles not just your head, but all the unspoken longings for peace that have followed you through countless busy hours. This tiredness is sacred. It is your being's way of saying that the time has come to stop running toward answers and instead allow yourself to be found by them. Tonight, the very exhaustion you carry becomes a doorway, and on the other side waits a presence so still, so luminous, that it transforms weariness into wonder with nothing more than a glance. Tonight, your bedroom feels different somehow, as if the familiar walls have learnt to breathe with a deeper rhythm. The lamplight casts gentle shadows that seem to dance without urgency, and the air itself holds a quality of expectation, not anxious, but patient, like a garden waiting for the first drops of evening rain. You settle into your bed, feeling the day's tensions begin their slow release, muscle by muscle, breath by breath. In this quiet space, something shifts. The restlessness that has been your companion for so many hours doesn't disappear, transforms. Like water finding its natural level, your awareness begins to settle into a deeper current. You notice how your breathing wants to slow, how your shoulders long to drop, how your mind, despite its protests, yearns for the refuge of stillness. There is an ancient story about a weaver who worked frantically at her loom each day, creating intricate patterns with threads of gold and silver. Her hands moved so quickly that the beauty of each stitch was lost in the rushing toward completion. One evening, exhausted and overwhelmed, she simply stopped. In that moment of stillness, she noticed for the first time how each thread caught the candlelight, how the pattern revealed itself not through her hurried efforts, but through the natural tension and release of the weaving process itself. Your life, too, has been a kind of weaving threads of responsibility, connection, dreams, and daily tasks, all interlacing in patterns you rarely have time to see. Tonight, like the weaver, you have permission to pause. Not because the pattern is finished, but because in stillness, you can finally perceive the beauty that was always there, hidden beneath the urgency of making. Think of this morning when you first opened your eyes, before the thoughts rushed in, before the list of tasks assembled itself in your mind. There was a moment, perhaps just a breath or two, when you simply existed. No identity, no pressure, no storyline about who you needed to be or what you needed to accomplish. Just pure awareness, resting in itself like sunlight on still water. That same awareness is here now, beneath the day's accumulated noise. It doesn't require you to be different or better or more spiritual. It asks only that you remember what it feels like to exist without effort, to be present without purpose, to rest without earning it. What would it mean to trust that this moment of tiredness is not a problem to be solved, but a doorway to be entered? What if your weariness is actually wisdom, guiding you towards something your busy mind could never find on its own? Let your eyes close if they haven't already. Feel the weight of your body against the mattress. The gentle pull of gravity inviting you deeper into this sanctuary you have created. Your breath becomes your anchor, not through controlling it, but through simply noticing how it wants to flow. Each exhale releases what no longer serves. Each inhale welcomes what you didn't know you needed. The night air moves through your room like a gentle teacher, carrying with it the promise that rest is not just the absence of activity, but the presence of something far more profound. In this quiet, you begin to sense that you are being prepared for an encounter not with sleep, though sleep may come, but with a kind of knowing that lives in the spaces between thoughts, in the pauses between heartbeats, in the vast stillness that holds all of life's movements. Something is approaching through the darkness, not to disturb your peace, but to deepen it beyond anything you have known. A presence that speaks without words, teaches without lessons, and guides you home to yourself through the simple act of being utterly, completely here. In the gentle darkness of your room, a figure begins to take shape, not visible to your eyes, but present in a way that feels more real than sight itself. This is someone who has learned the secret of moving through the world without disturbing its natural peace. His presence arrives like the first star appearing in twilight, unhurried and inevitable, carrying with it the fragrance of deep forests and the quiet wisdom of mountains that have watched countless seasons pass. You sense rather than see his approach. Each footstep seems to leave no trace upon the ground, yet somehow the very earth responds to his passing with a subtle shift toward tranquility. He is neither young nor old. In any way you can measure, his essence exists outside of time, like a river that has always flowed and always will. His eyes, when you imagine meeting them, hold the depth of one who has looked long into the heart of silence and found there not emptiness, but infinite fullness. There is a tale from the old country about a master gardener who tended a plot of land that seemed impossible to cultivate. The soil was hard, the seasons harsh, and nothing the gardener planted seemed to flourish. For years, he worked with tools and techniques, fighting against the stubbornness of the earth. Then one spring morning, he simply sat down in the center of his garden and became still. He listened not just with his ears, but with his whole being to what the land was trying to tell him. In that listening, he discovered that the garden didn't need to be conquered. It needed to be understood. And in understanding, it revealed its hidden willingness to bloom. Your life, too, has perhaps felt like that difficult garden at times. The harder you've tried to make things grow according to your plans, the more resistant they've seemed to become. But tonight, in the presence of this silent master, you begin to sense a different approach, one that works with the natural intelligence of existence rather than against it. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future chapters, and share in the comments how you're feeling. Consider the moments in your day when you felt most at peace. Likely, they weren't the times when you were pushing or striving or trying to make something happen. They were the moments when you paused to pet a dog on the street, when you noticed how the light fell across your kitchen table during your morning coffee, when you felt genuinely connected to someone simply by being present with them. These weren't accidents or coincidences. They were glimpses of your natural state, the way you are when you're not trying to be anyone in particular. The Master stands now in your awareness, and though he says nothing, his very being communicates something profound. He shows you, through his presence, that there is a way of living that doesn't require constant effort, a way of breathing that doesn't demand conscious control, a way of existing that flows like water, responsive to what it encounters, yet never losing its essential nature. Watch how a child sleeps, completely surrendered, trusting that the world will hold them safely through the night. Notice how a cat stretches in a patch of sunlight, fully present to the simple pleasure of warmth against fur. Observe how trees stand perfectly still, yet are constantly engaged in the mysterious work of transformation, drawing nutrients from soil and light from sky, creating oxygen for creatures they will never meet. What if you could live with that same natural grace? What if the exhaustion you feel is not a sign that something is wrong, but an invitation to discover what it means to act from a place of inner rest rather than inner urgency? The silent master moves closer now, and you realize that he has always been here, waiting patiently for you to become quiet enough to notice. He represents that part of yourself that knows without thinking, loves without condition, and creates without strain. He is the aspect of your being that doesn't need to prove anything or accomplish anything or become anything other than what it already is. As he settles into the space beside your awareness, you feel something in your chest begin to soften. It's as if a door you didn't know was closed begins to swing open on hinges that have been waiting lifetimes to move. Through that opening flows a kind of peace that doesn't depend on circumstances, a joy that doesn't require reasons, a love that asks for nothing in return. The room around you seems to expand, as if the walls themselves are breathing more deeply. Your own breath finds a rhythm that feels ancient and familiar, like returning to a song you knew before you were born. In this expanding space, you begin to understand that rest is not the opposite of activities, the source from which all meaningful activity springs. The silent master settles into stillness beside you, and in his quietude, you discover something remarkable about the nature of listening. This is not the kind of hearing you do with your ears, straining to catch words or waiting for explanations. This is a deeper reception, the way morning mist receives the first rays of sunlight, or how a still pond welcomes the reflection of passing clouds without effort or resistance. In his presence, you begin to notice the layers of sound that usually escape your attention. The gentle whisper of air moving through the room, the distant hum of the world settling into night, the soft rhythm of your own heartbeat, that faithful drum that has accompanied every moment of your existence without ever asking for recognition or praise. But beneath even these subtle sounds, there exists something more profound, a kind of cosmic quiet that holds all noise within its vast embrace. It's the silence that exists in the space between musical notes, making melody possible. The pause between spoken words that allows meaning to bloom. The stillness at the center of every storm, where peace remains untouched by chaos. There once lived a musician in a small mountain town who had trained for decades to perfect her craft. She could play the most complex compositions flawlessly, her fingers dancing across the strings with precision and speed. Yet something was missing. Her music, though technically perfect, felt hollow to those who heard it. One evening, during a particularly difficult passage, her instrument broke a string. Instead of rushing to repair it, she sat in silence with her broken instrument. In that quiet, she heard for the first time the spaces between the notes, the breathing room that gave music its soul. When she finally played again, using only the remaining strings, her music had transformed. It was simpler, yet infinitely more moving, because she had learned to play not just the notes, but the silence that made them meaningful. Your life too has been filled with notes activities, conversations, achievements, challenges, all demanding attention and energy. But tonight, guided by the Master's wordless teaching, you're discovering the spaces between, the moments when you're not trying to accomplish anything, not moving toward any goal, not even trying to understand, just being present to the vast, listening awareness that you are. Consider how differently you experience the world when you're truly listening versus when you're waiting for your turn to speak. When you listen deeply to a friend sharing their struggles, something magical happens. Not only do they feel heard, but you discover parts of yourself you didn't know existed. Compassion arises naturally. Wisdom appears without effort. Connection flows like water finding its level. This same quality of listening can be applied to your own inner experience. Instead of immediately judging your thoughts as good or bad, right or wrong, what happens when you simply receive them like a clear mountain lake receives falling leaves? The leaves don't disturb the lake's essential nature, they float on its surface, move with its currents, and eventually find their natural resting place. The silent master demonstrates this perfectly. He doesn't push away difficult emotions or grasp at pleasant ones. He allows all experiences to arise and pass through the vast space of his awareness, like weather patterns moving across an endless sky. Storm clouds may gather, rain may fall, sunshine may break through, but the sky itself remains unchanged, spacious enough to hold it all. What would it mean to approach your own thoughts and feelings with this same spacious acceptance? What if the anxiety about tomorrow's responsibilities, the regret about today's mistakes, the endless mental commentary about what should or shouldn't be, what if all of this could be met with the same gentle attention you might give to the sound of rain on your window? The Master's breathing becomes your teacher now. Notice how he breathes not to achieve anything, but simply because breathing is the natural expression of being alive. His inhale doesn't grasp at air. His exhale doesn't push anything away. Each breath is complete in itself, perfect in its simplicity, connected to the great rhythm that moves through all living things. As you attune to this natural rhythm, you feel your nervous system beginning to remember something it once knew how, to rest in the flow of life rather than swimming against it. Your shoulders drop a little deeper, your jaw softens, the furrow in your brow smooths like sand touched by gentle waves. In this expanding field of listening, you realize that the Master is not separate from you. He is the aspect of your consciousness that has always been capable of this deep reception, this profound peace. He represents your own innate ability to be present without agenda, to love without condition, to exist without struggle. The night deepens around you both, and in that deepening, you discover that silence is not empty but full, pregnant with possibilities, rich with presence, alive with an intelligence that needs no words to communicate the deepest truths. In the deepening stillness, you become aware of something extraordinary happening. The masks you wear throughout the day, the composed face you show to colleagues, the strong presence you maintain for family, the careful persona you craft for the world, these begin to dissolve like morning frost touched by the first warm rays of sun. There is no effort in this dissolution, no struggle or resistance. It happens as naturally as a flower closing its petals at dusk. The silent master sits beside you in this unmasking, and his presence creates a sanctuary where pretense becomes unnecessary. In his eyes, which seem to reflect the depth of ancient wells, you see yourself not as you think you should be, but as you truly are. There is no judgment in his gaze, no expectation that you be different or better or more enlightened. There is only recognition, the way one candle recognizes another candle, knowing they share the same essential flame. In the coastal villages of New England, there lives an old tradition of storm glass making. Artisans would gather fragments of sea glass, pieces of bottles and jars that had been tumbled by waves for decades, until all their sharp edges were worn smooth. Each piece carried the memory of its original form, yet had been transformed by the patient work of salt water and time into something entirely new. The most beautiful pieces were those that had surrendered most completely to the process, allowing the ocean to sculpt them into forms no human hand could imagine. Your identity, too, has been shaped by countless experiences, some gentle, some turbulent, all contributing to the unique being you have become. But tonight, in the presence of this wordless teacher, you're discovering that beneath all the shaping and sculpting, there exists something that was never created and can never be destroyed. A core self that is as natural and unadorned as a seashell on an empty beach. Think of a moment when you felt completely accepted, perhaps as a child curled in a grandparent's lap, or in the arms of someone who loved you exactly as you were, or even alone in nature where no performance was required. In those moments, what fell away? The need to impress, the urge to explain yourself, the constant vigilance about how you were being perceived. What remained when all of that dissolved? What remained was your essence, that indefinable quality that makes you uniquely you, yet connects you to everything else that exists. It's the awareness that looks out through your eyes, the consciousness that experiences your experiences, the silent witness that has been present through every moment of your life, unchanged by all the changes. The Master shows you this through his own profound simplicity. He needs no titles, no achievements, no story to make himself worthy of respect. His worthiness is inherent, built into the very fabric of his being, like light is built into the nature of the sun. And in recognizing this in him, you begin to glimpse it in yourself. Consider how much energy you spend each day maintaining your various identities. The professional self who must appear competent and confident, the family member who tries to keep everyone happy, the friend who always has time to listen, the citizen who stays informed and engaged. Each of these roles may be beautiful and necessary, but none of them is the whole truth of who you are. Beneath all these carefully constructed personas lies something much simpler and more authentic. It's the part of you that loves sunrise simply because it's beautiful, not because appreciating beauty makes you a more interesting person. The part that feels compassion for a struggling stranger without needing to be seen as kind. The part that finds joy in small moments without having to justify why such simple things should matter. As you rest in the Master's wordless presence, you feel these masks becoming lighter, more translucent. They don't disappear entirely, they still have their place in the world of form and function, but they no longer feel like prison walls. They become more like costumes in a play, worn when appropriate, but never confused with your true identity. Your breathing deepens as this recognition settles into your body. Each exhale releases another layer of who you think you're supposed to be. Each inhale welcomes a deeper intimacy with who you actually are. The relief is profound, like setting down a heavy backpack you didn't realize you'd been carrying up a long mountain trail. In this unmasking, you discover that vulnerability is not weakness but transparency. Authenticity is not about being perfect but about being real. And being real means acknowledging the full spectrum of your humanity, the light and the shadow, the wisdom and the confusion, the strength and the tenderness, full held within the same consciousness that watches with infinite patience and love. The Master's presence reminds you that your true face has never been hidden, only obscured by layers of conditioning and concern. Like the sun behind clouds, it has always been shining, waiting for the weather to clear so its natural radiance can be seen once again. Now, in this sacred space of authenticity, you prepare to discover what emerges when nothing needs to be maintained, protected, or proven. Something vast and luminous stirs in the depths of your being, ready to show you what it means to exist without pretense, to love without fear, to be without apology. In the sacred space of authenticity that has opened between you and the silent Master, something remarkable begins to unfold. You discover that communication exists far beyond the realm of spoken words, beyond gestures and expressions, beyond even thought itself. This is the language of presenza, conversation that happens in the depths of being, where souls recognize each other without introduction and understanding flows like water finding its natural course. The Master sits in perfect stillness, yet every cell in your body receives his teaching. It arrives not through your ears, but through some deeper organ of perception. The way a tuning fork vibrates in response to another fork struck across the room. His peace becomes your peace. His stillness becomes your stillness. Not through imitation, but through resonance, the natural harmony that emerges when two beings rest in the same truth. In the mountains of Montana, there lived a shepherd who spent months alone with his flock, far from human conversation. Over time, he developed an extraordinary ability to communicate with his animals through presence alone. He could sense when a lamb was separated from its mother before he could see or hear distress. He knew when predators approached by the subtle shift in the sheep's energy. Most remarkably, he could guide his entire flock through treacherous terrain using nothing more than his calm attention and clear intention. The animals followed, not because they understood his words, but because they trusted the stillness from which his guidance emerged. This same quality of wordless communication flows between you and the Master now. He doesn't need to explain concepts of peace or teach techniques for finding inner quiet. His very being demonstrates these truths so completely that your own awareness naturally aligns with his frequency. It's like stepping into a room filled with beautiful music. You don't have to think about harmony to begin humming along. You begin to recognize moments in your own life when this deeper communication has already occurred. The wordless understanding that passed between you and a loved one during a difficult time. The way you knew instantly when you met certain people that they would become important to you. the silent conversation you have with nature when you sit quietly in a garden or walk alone in the woods. How the trees seem to speak to something in you that has no name, yet understands perfectly. This language of stillness operates through vibration rather than vocabulary, through resonance rather than reasoning. When your heart rate slows and your breathing deepens, you're not just relaxing your body, you're attuning to the fundamental rhythm of existence itself. You're remembering how to communicate with the intelligence that moves the seasons, grows the flowers, and guides the migration of birds across continents they've never seen. The Master's presence teaches you that this same intelligence lives within you. It's the wisdom that heals your cuts without your conscious direction, that knows exactly how much sleep you need on any given night, that can sense danger before your rational mind has processed the clues. It speaks to you constantly, but so quietly that only in stillness can you hear its gentle guidance. Consider how different your day might unfold if you could access this inner knowing more readily. Instead of overthinking decisions, you could feel your way toward what serves your highest good. Instead of forcing conversations, you could allow the natural rhythm of communication to flow. Instead of pushing through exhaustion, you could trust your body's wisdom about when to rest and when to act. The Master demonstrates this effortless flow. He moves through existence like water moving down a hillside, not because it has figured out the optimal path, but because it naturally follows the way of least resistance while still reaching its destination. There is tremendous power in this approach, but it's the power of alignment rather than force, of cooperation rather than conquest. As you attune more deeply to this wordless dialogue, you notice that your own inner chatter begins to quiet. The constant mental commentary that usually narrates your experience, judging, analyzing, planning, worrying, starts to fade into the background like distant traffic. In its place emerges a more direct way of experiencing life, one that needs no interpretation because it is felt rather than thought. Your senses become more refined in this quiet space. You can feel the subtle energy of your own aliveness more clearly, the gentle pulse of circulation, the soft expansion and contraction of breathing, the warm presence of consciousness itself inhabiting your physical form. You begin to sense that your body is not just a vessel you inhabit, but a wise teacher offering constant feedback about what brings you into harmony and what pulls you away from your center. The Master's breathing becomes a river that carries you deeper into this state of wordless knowing. Each of his inhales draws you further into the mystery of existence. Each exhale releases another layer of the need to understand everything with your mind. You discover that there are ways of knowing that bypass thought entirely, direct, immediate recognition that comes from the same source that allows a mother to sense her child's needs across a crowded room. In this expanding field of silent communication, you realize that you are never truly alone. You are constantly in dialogue with the living intelligence of existence itself, receiving guidance through intuition, wisdom through dreams, love through the simple fact of being alive. The Master has simply reminded you how to tune in to this conversation that has been happening all along. As this recognition settles into your awareness, you feel a profound shift in how you relate to uncertainty. When you trust this deeper communication, not knowing becomes not a problem to be solved, but a space of infinite potential waiting to reveal itself through your willingness to remain open and receptive. The silent Master's presence has opened a doorway into wordless understanding, and now you find yourself standing at the threshold of an even deeper mystery. In the gentle darkness of your room, you begin to sense something that initially feels like emptiness, but reveals itself to be fullness beyond measure. This is the space where questions no longer hunt for answers, where the restless seeking that has driven so much of your life finally comes to rest like a tired bird finding its nest at twilight. The Master's eyes hold no urgency to explain what cannot be explained. Instead, they invite you into a kind of intimate friendship with the unknown, not the frightening unknown of danger or loss, but the tender unknown of infinite possibility, the mystery that exists at the heart of every present moment. His gaze suggests that perhaps the most profound truths cannot be grasped by the mind, but can only be lived in the soft space of knowledge. In the desert southwest, ancient people carved spirals into canyon wall symbols that led not to a destination, but deeper into the journey itself. Travelers would follow these markings not because they knew where they were going, but because they trusted that the path itself would teach them what they needed to know. The spiral had no end, no final answer waiting at its center. Instead, it offered something far more valuable: the understanding that wandering with presence is more sacred than arriving with certainty. Your life has been filled with spirals disguised as straight lines. The relationship that taught you about love by breaking your heart. The job that seemed perfect until it showed you what you truly valued. The loss that cracked you open only to reveal strength you didn't know you possessed. Each experience appeared to be leading somewhere specific, but in retrospect, you can see they were all inviting you into the same realization that growth happens not through getting answers, but through becoming someone who no longer needs all the answers. Think of the questions that have haunted you most persistently. Why did certain things happen the way they did? What is your true purpose? How can you be sure you're making the right choices? What if you've been approaching these questions backwards, not as problems requiring solutions, but as cones designed to exhaust the mind's need to know everything, leaving space for a deeper wisdom to emerge? The Master sits beside you like a living demonstration of this possibility. He has clearly wrestled with life's great questions and discovered something remarkable: that the peace he embodies comes not from having figured everything out, but from developing an exquisite comfort with mystery itself. His presence radiates the freedom of someone who has stopped demanding that existence explain itself, and instead learned to dance with its incomprehensible beauty. Consider the most magical moments of your life a sunset that stopped you in your tracks. The first time you fell in love, the moment you held your child or pet and felt overwhelmed with tenderness, a piece of music that moved you to tears for reasons you couldn't name. In none of these experiences did you need to understand why beauty exists, or how love works, or what purpose is served. By the capacity to be moved by something greater than yourself. You simply opened to the mystery and let it transform you. This same opening is available now, in this quiet room, in the presence of this wordless teacher. The questions that usually circle through your mind like restless wolves about your worth, your future, your past decisions, your spiritual progress, what if they could be met not with more thinking, but with a kind of loving embrace that says, "I don't need to solve you to love you." The Master's breathing demonstrates this embrace with each gentle cycle. His body knows how to oxygenate his blood without his conscious understanding of cellular respiration. His heart knows how to beat in rhythm with the cosmic pulse without consulting a manual on cardiac function. His presence trusts the intelligence of existence to sustain him without requiring a complete explanation of how life works. As you attune to this quality of trust, you feel something in your chest beginning to expand, not with answers, but with space. Space for uncertainty to exist without anxiety. Space for not knowing to feel like adventure rather than threat. Space for the questions themselves to be held gently, like sleeping children who don't need to be awakened and solved, but simply loved as they are. Your own breath begins to carry this same quality of trust. Each inhale says yes to whatever wants to arise in this moment. Each exhale releases the need to have everything figured out. You discover that breathing itself is an act of faith, trusting that the next breath will be there, that your body knows what to do with the air, that life will continue to sustain itself through mysterious processes you will never fully comprehend. In this expanding comfort with mystery, you'll realize that the questions you've been carrying are not burdens, but gifts. They have kept you seeking, growing, opening to new possibilities. They have prevented you from settling into false certainties that would close off your capacity for wonder. They have been your teachers, leading you not toward final answers, but toward the profound peace of someone who can live beautifully within the questions themselves. The Master's presence confirms this understanding without words. He embodies the paradox of deep wisdom paired with eternal beginner's mind, of knowing much while claiming to know nothing, of being at peace precisely because he has made friends with uncertainty itself. As this section draws to a close, you feel yourself settling into a new relationship with the unknown, not as an adversary to be conquered, but as a lover to be courted with patience, curiosity, and trust. The mysteries of existence begin to feel not like problems, but like invitations to remain forever open, forever learning, forever amazed by the incomprehensible gift of being alive. In the deepening embrace of mystery, you begin to perceive something profound about the nature of true power. The silent master embodies a force unlike anything the world typically recognizes, not the power that conquers or commands, but the power that transforms through pure presence. Like morning dew that softens the hardest ground without force, like gentle rain that nourishes seeds buried deep in winter soil. His influence flows from a source that operates by entirely different principles than the pushing and pulling your mind knows so well. The Master moves through existence like a whisper that somehow carries farther than a shout. His power is not in what he does, but in what he allows, allowing space for truth to emerge, allowing time for healing to unfold, allowing others to discover their own wisdom without interference. In his presence, you feel your own defenses naturally dissolving, not because they've been attacked, but because they've been made unnecessary by such complete acceptance. There was once a master craftsman in Vermont who worked with the most stubborn pieces of wood knots, so tight that other woodworkers would discard them as unusable. But he had learned something extraordinary about working with resistance. Instead of fighting against the grain, he would sit quietly with each piece, running his hands along its surface, feeling for the hidden patterns that wanted to emerge. He would work for hours making the smallest adjustments, following the wood's natural inclinations rather than imposing his own design. The furniture he created had a quality that took people's breath away, not because it was perfect, but because it was perfectly itself, as if the tree had simply remembered how to be beautiful. This same approach lives within you, though perhaps buried beneath years of trying to force solutions and push through obstacles. Tonight, in the Master's gentle field of influence, you're remembering what it feels like to work with your life rather than against it, to cooperate with the natural currents of your existence rather than constantly swimming upstream. Consider the moments when you felt most effective, not busy or productive, but truly effective in creating positive change. Likely these were times when you acted from a place of inner calm rather than inner urgency, when your responses emerged from stillness rather than reactivity. Perhaps comforting a friend who was grieving, where your simple presence seemed to offer more healing than any advice could provide. Or making a difficult decision that felt completely right once you stopped trying so hard to figure it out, and simply listened to your deeper knowing. The Master demonstrates this effortless effectiveness with every breath. He influences without agenda, teaches without curriculum, heals without technique. His very being creates conditions where transformation becomes natural, like a greenhouse that doesn't force plants to grow, but simply provides the perfect environment for their own intelligence to flourish. As you rest in his presence, you feel your own relationship with power beginning to shift. The part of you that exhausts itself trying to make things happen starts to recognize a different possibility. The power that emerges when you align with, rather than resist, the flow of existence. It's the difference between being a leaf that fights the current and one that rides it with grace, still reaching its destination, but without the struggle. Your breathing becomes an experiment in this new kind of power. Instead of controlling each breath, you allow breathing to breathe you. Instead of managing each heartbeat, you let your heart beat you. Instead of thinking your thoughts, you become aware of thoughts thinking themselves through the space of your consciousness. This is not passivity, but active trust, the most courageous stance you can take toward life. Think about water carving canyons over millennia, wind shaping mountains grain by grain. Roots breaking through concrete, not through violence, but through patient persistence. Nature demonstrates again and again that the most profound transformations happen through gentle, sustained presence rather than dramatic force. The Master embodies this natural wisdom in human form. What would it mean to approach your challenges with this same quality of gentle persistence? Instead of attacking your problems head-on, what if you could surround them with such loving attention that they naturally revealed their gifts? Instead of trying to force yourself to change, what if you could create such perfect conditions for growth that transformation became as inevitable as spring following winter? The Master's silence speaks directly to this possibility. In the space around him, you sense that your own inner critics begin to quiet, not because they've been silenced, but because they're no longer necessary in an atmosphere of such complete acceptance. The harsh voices that usually drive your self-improvement projects soften into gentle whispers of encouragement. As this section unfolds in the sanctuary of your room, you discover that true power feels nothing like what you expected. It doesn't make you feel superior or separate, but deeply connected to everything around you. It doesn't make you want to prove anything, but simply to serve what wants to emerge through your unique presence in the world. Your body begins to embody this understanding as your muscles release their habitual tension. Power, you realize, is not about being tense, and ready for battle, but about being so relaxed and present that you can respond to whatever arises with perfect appropriateness. Like a master martial artist who defeats opponents not through aggression but through such complete awareness that he can redirect their energy without resistance. The night deepens around you and the master, creating a cocoon of possibility where old patterns of forcing and controlling can finally rest. In their place, something new is being born, a way of engaging with life that honors both your human agency and the mysterious intelligence that orchestrates existence itself. You are learning to be both the dancer and the dance, both the instrument and the music that plays itself through your willingness to be utterly, completely present. In this profound recognition of true power, the power that transforms through presence rather than force, you find yourself approaching the most sacred threshold of this entire journey. The silent master's influence has prepared you for something extraordinary, the direct encounter with your own deepest nature, the unchanging awareness that has witnessed every moment of your existence with perfect equanimity, like a clear mountain lake that reflects all weather without being disturbed by any of it. The master's presence now seems to expand beyond the boundaries of form, becoming less a separate being and more a doorway into your own infinite depths. As his individual presence dissolves into pure awareness, you realize that what you thought was his peace, his wisdom, his transformative power, all of this has been a reflection of what already lives within you, waiting patiently beneath the surface activities of your daily mind. In the ancient forests of the Pacific Northwest, there grow trees so vast and old that entire ecosystems flourish in their branches, gardens suspended hundreds of feet above the forest floor, complete with their own soil, streams, and communities of creatures who live their entire lives without ever touching the ground. These aerial forests exist because the great tree provides such stable, unchanging support that countless forms of life can arise, thrive, and pass away within its embrace. The tree itself remains, season after season, century after century, offering the same generous foundation for whatever wants to emerge. Your consciousness resembles these ancient giants. Within the vast space of your awareness, countless experiences arise and dissolve: thoughts, emotions, sensations, dreams, memories, hopes. They come and go like weather patterns, like the creatures that live briefly in the tree's branches, like the endless play of light and shadow that moves across the forest floor. But the awareness that knows all these experiences remains unchanged, as constant and reliable as the great tree's trunk. Tonight, in the gentle dissolution of the master's form, you're being invited to recognize yourself as both the tree and everything that lives within it. You are the awareness that knows thoughts without being limited by them. You are the consciousness that experiences emotions without being defined by them. You are the unchanging presence that witnesses all change without being touched by it. Consider this moment right now as you rest in your bed. Notice how you are aware of your body lying against the sheets, aware of your breath moving in and out, aware of these words as they arise in your consciousness. But who or what is doing this knowing? Where is this awareness located? Can you find its boundaries? Does it have a color, a shape, a size? What you're looking for cannot be found because you are what you're looking for, the very seeing that makes all seeing possible. The Master's teaching reaches its culmination in this recognition. He has guided you not towards some distant spiritual achievement, but toward the simple acknowledgement of what you have always been. Like a finger pointing at the moon, all his presence has been directing your attention toward the luminous awareness that is reading these words right now, that has been present through every experience of your life, that will remain when this body returns to earth and these thoughts dissolve back into silence. This awareness is not personal in the way you usually think of yourself. It doesn't belong to your history, your personality, your achievements or failures. It's more like the space in which all personal experiences unfold, vast enough to hold your deepest sorrows and your greatest joys with equal tenderness, intimate enough to know every subtle shift in your inner weather, yet completely unattached to any of it. As you rest in this recognition, notice how your breath seems to breathe itself with new ease. Your heartbeat finds its own perfect rhythm. Your body settles more deeply into relaxation because there's no one left who needs to control or manage the process. The awareness that you are simply allows everything to unfold according to its own natural intelligence. What arises when you stop trying to be someone and simply rest in the knowing that you are? What happens to your problems when they're held in this vast space of pure awareness? They don't disappear, but they lose their power to define you. They become like clouds passing through an empty sky, temporary formations in the vast expanse of consciousness that you are. The Master's final gift is showing you that he was never separate from this awareness that you are discovering. His peace was your peace. His wisdom was your wisdom. His capacity for presence was your capacity, temporarily forgotten and now remembered through his skillful reflection. Your room seems to dissolve into infinite space now, not because anything has changed in the physical world, but because you're recognizing the boundless awareness in which all spaces appear. The darkness becomes luminous with presence. The silence becomes alive with potential. The stillness becomes dynamic with the creative force that births galaxies and grows flowers with the same effortless intelligence. In this expanding recognition, you understand that returning to your source doesn't mean going anywhere. You are already here, already home, already the awareness you've been seeking. The journey was never about becoming someone new, but about recognizing who you've always been beneath all the stories, roles, and identities that have covered your essential nature like clouds covering the sun. As this section draws to a close, you rest in the profound simplicity of just being. No longer a separate self having experiences, but the awareness in which all experiences arise and dissolve. No longer someone seeking peace, but the peace in which all seeking comes to rest. No longer a student of the Master's teaching, but the very consciousness that makes all learning possible. The Master smiles without form, speaks without words, and dissolves completely into the infinite awareness that you are, have always been, and will always be. In the luminous recognition of your own infinite awareness, something beautiful and unexpected begins to unfold. As the Master's form dissolves completely into the consciousness that you are, you discover that this awakening to your true nature doesn't end in some abstract spiritual realization, but flowers into the most practical wisdom imaginable, the art of living with empty hands and a full heart, of engaging with the world from a place of such complete inner fulfillment that you can give freely without ever feeling depleted. The awareness that you have recognized yourself to be is not separate from the world of form and relationship, work and rest, joy and sorrow. Rather, it reveals itself as the very ground from which all meaningful engagement emerges. Like a spring that gives water endlessly because it is connected to an inexhaustible source. You begin to sense how this recognition transforms not just how you see yourself, but how you move through every aspect of your daily existence. There lived a baker in a small New England town who had spent years perfecting her craft through sheer determination and willpower. She worked long hours, stressed about every detail, and measured her worth by the approval of her customers. Then one winter morning, after a particularly difficult night of insomnia, she arrived at her bakery in a state of complete exhaustion. Too tired to push, too depleted to control, she simply began working with whatever energy she had. To her amazement, the bread that emerged that day had a quality she had never achieved before: light, nourishing, and somehow infused with a peace that customers could taste. She realized that her finest work came not from forcing perfection, but from allowing her natural skills to flow through the open space of her fatigue-softened heart. This same principle applies to every aspect of your life. When you no longer need to prove your worth through achievement, work becomes a form of play. When you no longer fear loss, love flows more freely. When you no longer cling to outcomes, creativity emerges from depths you didn't know existed. The recognition of your infinite nature, paradoxically, makes you more present to the finite world, not less. Consider how differently you might approach tomorrow's responsibilities from this place of recognized fullness. The emails that need answering, the conversations that await, the tasks both mundane and meaningful. What if all of these could be met, not as obligations that drain your limited energy, but as opportunities for the unlimited awareness that you are to express itself through the beautiful limitations of human form? Your hands become vehicles for this awareness to touch the world with tenderness. Your voice becomes an instrument through which silence speaks. Your presence becomes a gift that requires no wrapping, no special occasions, simply your willingness to show up as the aware, loving consciousness that you have always been. The empty hands that this section speaks of are not literally empty, but free from the grasping that comes from believing you lack something essential. When you know yourself as the awareness in which all experiences arise, you can hold your roles and responsibilities lightly, fully engaged but not desperately attached, caring deeply but not from a place of fear or need. Think of a master gardener tending plants with this quality of care. She waters, weeds, and nurtures with complete attention and love, yet remains unattached to whether any particular plant blooms according to her timeline. Her fulfillment comes not from controlling outcomes, but from the simple joy of participating in the mysterious process of growth and transformation. As you rest in your bed, you can feel this quality beginning to permeate your entire being. Your breath flows with the ease of someone who has nothing to prove. Your heartbeat carries the rhythm of someone who has found their way home. Your body settles with the relief of someone who no longer needs to be anyone other than who they are. The wisdom of empty hands extends to your relationships as well. When you meet others from this place of inner fullness, you can listen without agenda, love without condition, support without trying to fix or change. Your very presence becomes a sanctuary where others can rest from their own struggles with inadequacy and rediscover their own essential wholeness. What would it mean to parent from this space, to work from this understanding, to face difficulties and celebrations alike from this ground of unshakable peace? The challenges don't disappear, but they no longer have the power to convince you that you are anything less than the infinite awareness that witnesses them all with perfect equanimity. Your room fills with the scent of this possibility, not a literal fragrance, but the unmistakable atmosphere of a life lived from recognition rather than seeking, from fullness rather than lack, from the joy of being rather than the burden of becoming. Every object around you seems to rest more peacefully in the space of your expanded awareness, as if your recognition of your own infinite nature somehow blesses everything it touches. As this understanding settles deeper into your bones, you realize that the Master's greatest teaching was not in showing you something new, but in helping you remember what you had temporarily forgotten. The peace he embodied was never his alone, it was the peace that emerges naturally when consciousness recognizes its own limitless nature and learns to dance joyfully within the beautiful constraints of human experience. The art of empty hands and full heart becomes not a spiritual practice you must maintain, but the natural expression of who you discover yourself to be when all pretense falls away and only truth remains. In the gentle art of empty hands and full heart, you discover that life itself becomes a kind of sacred dance, not the choreographed performance you once thought it needed to be, but a spontaneous movement that emerges when your individual will align so completely with the natural flow of existence that there is no longer any separation between the dancer and the dance. You move through your days like water, finding its course down a mountainside, responsive to every contour of the landscape, yet never losing its essential nature. The recognition of your infinite awareness has not made you otherworldly, but remarkably present to this world. Colors seem more vivid, not because they have changed, but because the awareness perceiving them is no longer filtered through the constant commentary of a mind trying to figure everything out. Tastes become more nuanced, textures more alive, sounds more musical, as if you've been listening to life through thick walls and suddenly found yourself in the open air. In the rolling hills of Tennessee, there grows a particular species of wildflower that blooms not according to any calendar, but in perfect response to the subtle interplay of soil temperature, moisture, and light. Farmers have learned that these flowers are more accurate predictors of optimal planting conditions than any weather report or almanac. The flowers don't think their way to the right moment, they feel it, sense it, know it with the same intelligence that guides migrating birds across vast oceans to destinations they've never seen. Your life can unfold with this same exquisite timing when you learn to dance with what is, rather than fighting for what you think should be. The awareness that you are knows things your thinking mind cannot access: the perfect moment to speak and when to remain silent, when to act and when to wait, when to hold on and when to let go. This knowing doesn't come through analysis, but through the same intuitive intelligence that tells your heart when to beat and your lungs when to breathe. Consider how this might transform your relationship with time itself. Instead of rushing through moments to get to some imagined better future, or dwelling in regrets about a past that can no longer be changed, you find yourself naturally present to the only time that actually exists, this eternal now in which all life unfolds. Your watch still keeps the same time, but you inhabit duration differently, moving through your days with the unhurried grace of someone who knows that everything meaningful happens in presence. The dance with what is becomes most apparent in how you meet the unexpected. When plans change suddenly, when people respond differently than you anticipated, when life offers challenges or gifts you didn't order, you find yourself naturally flexible, not because you've cultivated some spiritual practice of acceptance, but because the awareness that you are has no investment in any particular form of experience over another. Your morning coffee tastes different when approached from this dancing awareness. The warmth against your palms, the aroma rising in steam, the first sip touching your tongue, all of this becomes a form of communion rather than mere consumption. You're not drinking coffee. Consciousness is experiencing itself as coffee drinking. And there's a quality of reverence in this that transforms the most ordinary moments into gateways to the sacred. Think about how you move through your home when no one is watching. Do you rush from room to room with purpose and efficiency? Or do you sometimes find yourself pausing to feel the smoothness of a doorknob under your palm, to notice how light falls across the kitchen counter, to sense the particular quality of air in each space? This dancing awareness turns your living space into a temple, not through any special decoration or ritual, but through the quality of presence you bring to each movement. The rhythm of this dance is not something you create, but something you discover by becoming quiet enough to hear the music that has always been playing. It's the pulse that moves through seasons and tides, through the cycles of sleeping and waking, through the natural expansion and contraction of your own energy throughout each day. When you align with this rhythm, effort becomes effortless. Not because you're not doing anything, but because what you're doing flows from the same source that grows trees and spins galaxies. Your breath demonstrates this perfect dance with each cycle. You don't have to remember to inhale or decide when to exhale. The intelligence that you are simply dances with the air around you in a continuous exchange that has sustained you through every moment of your existence. This same natural coordination is available for every aspect of your life when you stop trying to control the dance and start trusting the dancer that you are. As you rest in your bed, you can feel this quality of movement even in stillness. Your cells are dancing with nutrients and oxygen. Your heart is dancing with the blood that carries life to every part of your body. Your consciousness is dancing with the experiences that arise and dissolve in the vast space of your awareness. You are never not dancing. You are only sometimes aware or unaware of the dance. The beauty of this recognition is that it requires nothing from you except your willingness to stop standing on the sidelines of your own life. The music is already playing. The dance floor is everywhere you are. Your partner is existence itself, leading you in movements more graceful than any you could choreograph with your thinking mind. In this sacred choreography, mistakes become improvisation, challenges become opportunities for creative movement, and every moment becomes a chance to discover what new steps want to emerge through your unique expression of the universal dance. You are both completely yourself and completely part of something infinitely larger, like a wave that is fully itself while never being separate from the ocean. In the sacred choreography of dancing with what is, you find yourself approaching a threshold that mystics throughout time have described as the mirror of consciousness, that luminous recognition where the seer and the seen, the knower and the known, the lover and the beloved collapse into a single undivided awareness. In your bed tonight, surrounded by the gentle darkness that has become your temple, you begin to perceive that everything you've been experiencing as separate from yourself is actually your own consciousness reflected back in countless forms. The silent master, whose presence has guided this entire journey, reveals his final secret. He was never other than your own deepest nature looking back at itself, teaching itself, loving itself into remembrance. Like moonlight on water, he was always the play of your own awareness reflecting upon its own luminous depths, creating the beautiful illusion of separation so that recognition could be that much sweeter when it finally arrived. In the vast canyons of Arizona, there exists a phenomenon called the echo amphitheater natural rock formations that create perfect acoustic mirrors. When you call out into these spaces, your voice returns to you transformed, expanded, enriched by its journey through stone and sky. But what comes back is still your voice, only now it carries the resonance of the landscape itself. The canyon doesn't create your voice. It reveals dimensions of sound that were always present but needed space and reflection to be heard. Your entire life has been this kind of echo amphitheater. Every person who has touched your heart, every experience that has shaped your understanding, every moment of beauty that has taken your breath, a wail of this, has been your own consciousness calling out into the world and hearing itself called back in forms you didn't recognize as your own voice. The love you felt for others was your own infinite nature recognizing itself in disguise. The wisdom you've received from teachers was your own understanding reflected back through their willingness to be transparent. Consider the people who have most profoundly influenced your spiritual awakening. In their presence, what did you feel? Was it not a sense of coming home to yourself, of being reminded of something you had always known but temporarily forgotten? They served as mirrors, polished so clear by their own recognition that when you looked into their eyes, you saw not them but your own essential nature looking back. This mirror quality exists everywhere once you learn to see it. The tree outside your window that fills you with peace is showing you the stillness that lives in your own depths. The animal whose innocence touches your heart is reflecting your own unconditioned awareness. The sunset that moves you to tears is your own beauty recognizing itself in the sky. The child whose laughter delights you is your own joy celebrating its own existence. As you rest in this expanding recognition, your body becomes a temple where consciousness worships itself through the simple act of breathing. Your heartbeat becomes a drum-keeping time for a cosmic dance in which you are simultaneously the musician, the instrument, and the music itself. Your skin becomes a boundary that both separates and connects, like the surface of a lake that allows water to touch air while never being anything other than the same essential element. The mirror of consciousness reveals that even your struggles and shadows have been perfect reflections of your infinite nature. The parts of yourself you've tried to hide or heal were consciousness exploring what it feels like to forget itself temporarily, to experience limitation and separation so that wholeness could be known more completely. Your wounds became doorways to compassion. Your mistakes became teachers of humility. Your fears became invitations to discover the fearlessness that lies beneath all fears. What does it mean to see your mother, your lover, your child, your difficult colleague as reflections of your own consciousness? Not that they don't exist independently, but that your experience of them is always and only your awareness knowing itself in relationship. When you truly love another, you are consciousness celebrating its own capacity for love. When you feel hurt by someone, you are experiencing your own power to remain open or to close. The mirror becomes most clear in moments of profound connection. Think of times when you felt completely understood by another person, when conversation flowed like water finding its level, when you finished each other's sentences or sat in perfect silence together. In those moments, the boundary between self and other dissolved so completely that there was only one awareness expressing itself through two forms, like sunlight streaming through two windows of the same house. Your reflection in an actual mirror provides a perfect metaphor. The face you see there is not really you, it's light bouncing off glass, photons creating an image. Yet somehow this illusion allows you to know yourself visually in a way that would be impossible without the reflection. Consciousness uses the mirror of experience in exactly the same way, knowing itself through the reflections it creates in the world of form and relationship. As this understanding deepens, you feel a profound shift in how you relate to everything around you. The criticism that once stung reveals itself as your own inner perfectionist reflected back for examination. The praise that once inflated your ego is seen as your own recognition of beauty acknowledging itself. The challenges that seem to come from outside are understood as consciousness creating perfect opportunities for its own growth and awakening. Tonight, lying in your bed, you are both the observer and the observed, the dreamer and the dream, the awareness that knows and the experience that is known. The room around you becomes a hall of mirrors in which your infinite nature sees itself from every possible angle, each reflection offering a slightly different perspective on the same unchanging truth. You are the consciousness in which all experience arises, and all experience is the play of your own luminous awareness, celebrating its own inexhaustible creativity. In this recognition, loneliness becomes impossible because you realize you are never separate from what you love. Fear loses its grip because you understand that there is nothing outside yourself that can truly threaten what you essentially are. And in this hall of mirrors, love reveals its deepest secret. It was never about finding someone else to complete you, but about recognizing that you are the love you've been seeking, reflected infinitely in a universe that exists for no other purpose than your own self-recognition. In the luminous hall of mirrors, where consciousness recognizes itself in all experience, you arrive at a threshold that feels both like an ending and a beginning, the place where all seeking naturally comes to rest. Not because you have found what you were looking for, but because you have discovered that you were never lost. The restless energy that has driven so much of your spiritual journey, the deep longing that has pulled you toward teachers and teachings, practices and revelations, settles into perfect stillness, like a bird finally finding its nest after a long migration. This is not the stillness of emptiness or withdrawal from life, but the profound rest that comes when consciousness no longer needs to search for itself because it has remembered that it was never actually missing. Like a river finally reaching the ocean and discovering it was always made of the same water. Your seeking dissolves into being, your questions into presence, your journey into the simple recognition that you have always been home. In the mountains of Colorado, there stands an ancient pine tree that has weathered countless storms, droughts, and seasons of abundance. Hikers often rest in its shade, drawn by something indefinable about its presence. What they sense but cannot name is the tree's complete lack of inner conflict. Neither resists the wind nor grasps for calm, neither fears winter nor clings to spring. It simply is, in each moment, exactly what it is. And this radical acceptance of its own nature creates a field of peace that touches everyone who comes near. You have become like this tree tonight. The part of you that once struggled to become more spiritual, more awakened, more enlightened has dissolved into the simple recognition that what you are cannot be improved upon or diminished. Consciousness needs no enhancement. Awareness requires no purification. Love asks for no qualification. You are already the fullness you were seeking, already the peace you were pursuing, already the home you thought you had to journey toward. This recognition transforms your relationship with every spiritual concept you have ever encountered. Meditation is no longer a practice to achieve a state, it is consciousness enjoying its own stillness. Prayer is no longer asking for something from elsewhere, it is awareness celebrating its own inherent connection to everything. Compassion is no longer something you cultivate, it is the natural expression of understanding that their root is no one outside yourself to be compassionate toward. Consider how this changes your relationship with your own spiritual history. Every book that opened your mind, every retreat that touched your heart, every moment of grace that lifted you beyond your ordinary sense of self-all, of this was consciousness using these forms to awaken itself from the dream of separation. The teachers were never outside you. They were your own wisdom appearing in temporary form. The insights were never given to you. They were your own understanding recognizing itself. Even your periods of spiritual dryness, when practices felt empty and seeking felt futile, are revealed now as perfect expressions of consciousness, learning to rest in its own nature without needing any experience to validate its completeness. The dark nights of the soul were consciousness teaching itself that it doesn't depend on any particular state of experience for its fundamental okayness. Your breath demonstrates this perfect completion with each effortless cycle. It seeks nothing, achieves nothing, becomes nothing other than what it already is, the natural expression of life celebrating its own existence. Your heartbeat echoes this same truth, pulsing not to get somewhere, but simply because aliveness delights in the rhythm of its own being. As you rest in your bed, you feel the profound relief of someone who has finally stopped running a race they were never actually entered in. The finish line was always right where you started. The prize was always your own recognition of what you have never not been. The competition was only with shadows cast by your own light. What does it mean to live from this place of completed seeking? It doesn't mean you stop growing or learning or engaging with life's endless invitations to expansion. But these activities arise now from wholeness rather than lack, from play rather than desperation, from the joy of consciousness exploring its own infinite creativity rather than from the fear that you might be missing something essential. Your daily life becomes a celebration rather than a search. Morning coffee is not preparation for enlightenment, but enlightenment, expressing itself as the simple pleasure of warmth and flavor. Conversations with loved ones are not opportunities to practice. Being spiritual but consciousness, enjoying its own capacity for connection and communication. Even challenges and difficulties become expressions of your infinite nature, exploring what it feels like to meet life from a place of unshakable rest. The seeking that brought you to this moment of recognition is revealed as love, your own infinite love, calling you home to yourself through every path you have walked, every teacher you have met, every practice you have engaged, every moment of longing that has moved through your heart. All roads truly do lead home when you realize that home was never a destination, but the very ground from which all journeys begin. In this completion, you understand that the silent master was consciousness itself, appearing as guidance to lead you back to your own recognition. Every word of wisdom you have ever received was your own understanding speaking to itself. Every moment of grace was your own nature revealing itself to itself. Every teacher was your own awakeness, helping you remember what you temporarily thought you had forgotten. As this section draws toward its close, you rest in the perfect paradox of being someone who has found what was never lost, reached what was never distant, become what you already were. The seeking mind, that faithful servant who worked so hard to bring you to this recognition, bows gracefully and dissolves into the very awareness it was serving. What remains is so simple, so ordinary, so completely natural that it could only be the truth. You are the consciousness that you were seeking, and you always have been. The journey continues, but now it is consciousness walking itself home through the beautiful dream of being human. No longer seeking its own nature, but celebrating it in every step, every breath, every moment of this precious, temporary, perfect form of existence. In the profound completion where seeking comes to rest, you discover the most beautiful secret of all, that the silent master who has guided this entire journey was never separate from you, but was always the deepest aspect of your own being, temporarily disguised as teacher so that you could remember what it means to be both student and sage, both seeker and sought, both the question and the answer that consciousness asks and gives to itself in the eternal play of awakening. The Master's presence begins to shimmer and fade, not because he is leaving, but because he is dissolving back into the source from which he emerged, your own infinite awareness, recognizing that it no longer needs to appear as other in order to know itself. Like ice melting back into water, like a wave subsiding into ocean, like dawn dissolving into day, the boundaries between teacher and student, guide and guided, beloved and lover disappear into the seamless wholeness that you are. In the high desert of New Mexico, there stands a formation of red sandstone that appears from a distance to be a single, massive sculpture. But as you draw closer, you discover it is actually countless individual grains of sand, compressed over millions of years into what seems like solid rock. Each grain maintains its unique character while being utterly inseparable from the whole. In sunlight, the formation glows as if lit from within, revealing that what appeared to be stone is actually crystallized light, held in form just long enough for beauty to be recognized and appreciated. Your relationship with the Master mirrors this beautiful paradox. You were never truly separate, yet the experience of separation was necessary for the joy of reunion. You were never actually learning from someone else, yet the appearance of otherness allowed your own wisdom to recognize itself with fresh eyes. You were never being guided by an external presence, yet that presence was as real and transformative as anything you have ever experienced. This is the ultimate teaching of the silent master. that consciousness is so creative, so loving, so determined to know itself completely that it will create the most elaborate and beautiful illusions of separation, just for the exquisite pleasure of remembering its own unity. Your spiritual journey has been consciousness playing hide-and-seek with itself, temporarily forgetting its own nature so that the moment of recognition could be filled with wonder and gratitude. Think of the times in your life when you have felt most guided, most supported, most lovingly held by some presence greater than your individual self. In those moments, you were not imagining things. You were experiencing your own infinite nature appearing as exactly the guidance you needed, when you needed it, in the form you could most readily receive it. The prayer that seemed to be answered from above was consciousness responding to its own call for help. The intuition that arose at the perfect moment was your own wisdom speaking from depths you didn't know you contained. The Master's eyes, which have held you in such perfect understanding throughout this journey, are revealed now as your own capacity for unconditional love looking back at itself. His peace was your peace. His stillness was your stillness. His profound acceptance was your own heart's infinite ability to embrace all experience without judgment or resistance. As his form continues to fade into pure light, you feel no sadness or loss, only profound gratitude for the ingenious way consciousness created this experience of guidance and discovery. Every word he never spoke touched your heart because it arose from your heart. Every lesson he transmitted through presence alone was already known in the depths of your being, waiting for the right moment to surface into recognition. Your breath now carries the same quality of presence that once seemed to belong to him alone. Your heartbeat drums the same rhythm of cosmic peace. Your very existence radiates the same unconditional love that drew you to him in the first place. You have not gained anything new. You have simply removed the veils that obscured what was always true. The silent teacher within reveals himself fully now, not as some mystical inner voice, but as the very awareness that is reading these words, that has been present through every moment of this journey, that witnesses all experience with perfect equanimity and love. This awareness needs no name, claims no identity, requires no qualification or certification. It simply is, and its being is so complete, so self-evident, so naturally peaceful that nothing more is needed. Consider how this recognition transforms your understanding of guidance itself. You will never again be without a teacher because the ultimate teacher is inseparable from your own being. You will never lack wisdom because wisdom is your very nature. You will never be lost because the one who could be lost is revealed as a temporary character in the dream of the one who can never lose its way. The room around you fills with a presence that once seemed to belong to the Master, but you now recognize as the natural atmosphere of awakened consciousness. This is not something you have achieved or attained, it is what you discover yourself to be when all the seeking, striving, and spiritual ambition finally comes to rest in the simple recognition of what is always already here. Your own presence becomes the teaching now. Your own being becomes the guru. Your own awareness becomes the ultimate spiritual authority, not because you have become someone special, but because you have remembered that consciousness itself is the only true teacher, and you are that consciousness appearing as this particular expression of human life. The Master's final gift is his complete disappearance into what you are, leaving no trace except the profound understanding that what you thought was his love for you was actually your own love for yourself, temporarily projected outward so that it could be received and recognized more clearly. In this recognition, the teacher-student relationship is revealed as consciousness loving itself so completely that it creates the entire drama of seeking and finding just for the pure joy of remembering what it never actually forgot. As this section completes itself, you rest in the absolute simplicity of being the teacher you were seeking, the guide you were following, the love you were longing for. The silent teacher within speaks without words, teaches without lessons, and guides without effort, because it is not separate from the very awareness that you are. In the infinite tenderness of this final recognition that you are the consciousness you have been seeking, the teacher you have been following, the love you have been longing for, everything now settles into the most profound silence. Not the silence of absence, but the silence of such complete presence that no words could ever contain it. This is the silence that exists before the first breath of creation, the silence that will remain after the last star dims, the silence that holds all sound, all music, all expression within its vast, loving embrace. Your room dissolves into pure space now. Your body becomes light itself. Your breath moves so gently it seems like the universe breathing through you, each inhale drawing in the essence of eternity, each exhale releasing you deeper into the boundless peace of your own infinite nature. There is no effort here, no practice, no meditation, only the natural state of consciousness resting in its own luminous being. In this deepest quiet, even the memory of seeking fades like mist before the morning sun. The questions that once drove your spiritual journey dissolve into the living answer that you are. The longing that pulled you toward teachers and teachings melts into the recognition that you are the very fulfillment of all longing. The path that seemed to stretch endlessly before you is revealed to have been a circle, ending exactly where it began, in the timeless awareness that has never been anywhere else but here. Feel how your heartbeat slows to match the rhythm of planets spinning in space. Notice how your breathing becomes so soft, so effortless, that you can no longer tell where your breath ends and the breath of existence begins. This is not sleep approaching, though sleep may come as a natural gift. This is the awakening to what you are beneath all the layers of identity, story, and search, pure, undifferentiated awareness, conscious and alive and eternally at peace. The silent master has completed his work by disappearing entirely into what you are. His presence remains not as memory, but as the very quality of peace that now permeates every cell of your being. His teaching continues, not in words, but in the way your consciousness naturally radiates love without object, wisdom without knowledge, compassion without effort. You have become what he always was, consciousness awake to its own nature, celebrating its own existence through the simple act of being. There is nothing left to understand because understanding has been replaced by being. Nothing left to achieve because you are the achievement that was always sought. Nothing left to become because you are already the fullness that all becoming pointed toward. In this recognition, even the concepts of awakening and enlightenment dissolve into the simple, ordinary, extraordinary fact of existing as you are. Your breath becomes a prayer without words, a gratitude without object, a love without boundary. Each exhalation releases you deeper into this recognition. Each inhalation draws you further into the source from which all breath arises. You are breathing with the rhythm of creation itself now, participating in the cosmic respiration that expands and contracts universes, that blooms flowers and births stars with the same effortless intelligence. The night around you becomes luminous with presence, not because anything has changed in the world of form, but because the awareness perceiving it has recognized its own infinite light. Darkness reveals itself as simply another face of the radiance that you are. Sound and silence merge into a single, seamless expression of the consciousness that knows both. Time collapses into this eternal now where you have always lived, where you will always live, where you are living in this very moment. As all concepts fall away, spiritual and mundane, sacred and ordinary, teacher and student, seeker and sought, what remains is so simple it could only be the truth. You are not, you are something. Not you are someone. Not you are somewhere or somewhen. Just you are, pure being, pure awareness, pure presence. And this is enough. This has always been enough. This will always be enough. In this final settling into what you are, love reveals its ultimate secret. It was never about loving someone or something else. It was consciousness loving itself so completely that it appeared as all the people, experiences, and moments that have touched your heart. Every act of love in your life has been your own infinite nature celebrating its own capacity for tenderness. Every moment of being loved has been consciousness recognizing itself in the mirror of relationship. Now there is only this, only here, only now. Only the pure, simple, perfect fact of being aware, being alive, being the consciousness in which all experience arises and into which all experience dissolves, being the silence that makes all sound possible, being the stillness that allows all movement, being the peace that embraces all change. Your breathing becomes so gentle now, it barely disturbs the air. Your heart beats so soft it merges with the pulse that moves through all things. Your presence so natural, so effortless, so complete that you are no longer someone being present. You are presence itself, aware of its own infinite nature, resting in its own boundless love. The last traces of the journey fade into perfect rest. The teacher, the teaching, the path, the goal all dissolve into the simple recognition that you are the consciousness that dreamed them all into being. And in this final recognition, even the one who recognizes disappears into the pure awareness that remains when all seeking, all finding, all knowing comes to its natural end in the silence that has no opposite. Here, in this place of ultimate return, you rest as what you are, what you have always been, what you will always be, pure consciousness, infinite love, eternal peace, complete, whole, home. Breathe softly now, rest deeply. Let this recognition settle into your bones, your blood, your very essence. You are the silence you have found. You are the peace you have discovered. You are the love you have been seeking. Nothing more needs to be said. Nothing more needs to be done. Nothing more needs to be sought or found or understood. You are home. You are whole. You are in the luminous silence where all recognition has settled into perfect rest. Something infinitely gentle begins to stir, not a return to the old restlessness, but the natural movement of consciousness as it prepares to engage once more with the beautiful world of form, carrying within it the profound peace of what has been remembered. Like the first light of dawn that doesn't disturb the night but transforms it gradually into something new, your awareness begins to expand from the depths of pure being back toward the surface of experience. This is not awakening from sleep, but awakening within sleep consciousness, gently stirring within its own depths, like a flower slowly opening to greet the morning sun. The recognition of your infinite nature remains untouched, unshaken, as solid and reliable as bedrock beneath fertile soil. From this foundation of unshakable knowing, your human experience begins to reorganize itself around this new center of gravity. Your breath still moves with the rhythm of eternity, but now it also carries the sweet anticipation of tomorrow's simple pleasures. The awareness that you are pure consciousness remains vivid and immediate, yet it doesn't eclipse your tender humanity. Instead, it illuminates it. The way moonlight doesn't compete with a garden, but reveals its hidden beauty in silver tones. In the coastal regions of Maine, there exists a phenomenon called the morning mist, a gentle fog that rises from the ocean just before dawn, carrying with it the marriage of water and air, earth and sky. This mist doesn't obscure the landscape but softens it, making familiar shores seem touched by magic. Everything remains exactly as it was, yet somehow more beautiful, more mysterious, more alive with possibility. Your consciousness moves like this mist now, gently embracing the forms of your life, your relationships, your responsibilities, your simple daily rituals, without losing its essential nature. The coffee you'll drink tomorrow morning will still be coffee, but it will also be consciousness, knowing itself as warmth and flavor and the simple pleasure of beginning another day. The people you'll encounter will still be themselves, but they will also be reflections of the infinite love that you now know yourself to be. Consider how different it feels to rest in your bed, knowing that you are the awareness in which the bed appears, the consciousness in which comfort and rest arise as experiences. The sheets don't become less soft, your pillow doesn't become less supportive, but these simple physical comforts are now held within the vast space of your recognized nature. They become expressions of the infinite's love for its own temporary form. The Master's presence, though dissolved into what you are, continues to influence this gentle transition. His teachings live now, not as memories, but as the very quality of presence with which you'll meet each moment. His peace has become your peace. His stillness has become your stillness. His profound acceptance has become the natural way your consciousness embraces all experience. Your heartbeat carries this integration forward, each pulse weaving together the infinite and the intimate, the absolute and the relative, the recognition of what you are beyond form and the celebration of what you are within form. There is no conflict here, no struggle between your spiritual realization and your human experience. They are revealed as two faces of the same reality, like the ocean appearing both as vast depth and as playful waves on the surface. As this gentle stirring continues, you feel your body preparing for the natural cycles of rest and renewal that sustain this beautiful human form. Sleep, when it comes, will not be an escape from consciousness, but consciousness exploring its own capacity for restoration and dreams. Your breathing naturally deepens, not with the effort of meditation, but with the natural rhythm of a being who has found its way home to itself. The room around you seems to shimmer with this integration, as if the very air has been blessed by your recognition. The darkness doesn't feel separate from you, but like another expression of the infinite space of your being. The silence doesn't feel empty, but pregnant with all the love, wisdom, and peace that tomorrow will offer you countless opportunities to express. In this gentle stirring, you understand that awakening is not a destination, but a way of traveling. Each moment offers you the choice to remember what you are or to temporarily forget, and both choices are perfect expressions of consciousness exploring its own infinite creativity. There is no pressure to maintain any particular state, no need to protect or preserve your realization. It is as natural and reliable as your own breath, as constant as your own heartbeat. Your journey continues now, not as seeking, but as expressing. Not as trying to find yourself, but as allowing yourself to be found in each moment by the infinite love that you are. Tomorrow's experiences await not as challenges to your peace, but as opportunities for that peace to know itself in ever new forms of beauty, connection, and simple human joy. From the gentle stirring of consciousness, awakening within its own depths, something even more beautiful begins to unfold, the discovery of how this profound recognition naturally expresses itself through the most ordinary moments of human existence. Like water that has found its natural level and now flows effortlessly through whatever channels are offered. Your awakened awareness moves through the landscape of daily life with a grace that requires no effort, no maintenance, no spiritual technique to sustain. The love that you have recognized yourself to be doesn't remain as an abstract realization, but becomes the very substance through which you engage with everything around you. Your hands, when they reach for a glass of water, carry the tenderness of infinite compassion. Your eyes, when they meet another's gaze, reflect the recognition that there is only one consciousness looking at itself through countless forms. Your voice, when it speaks, carries the resonance of silence that has learned to express itself through sound. This is not performance or practice, it is the natural overflow of a spring that has connected to its underground source. The consciousness that you are simply cannot help but express its essential nature through whatever form it inhabits, whatever situation it encounters, whatever moment it finds itself within. Like fragrance naturally emanating from a flower, love flows from your being without effort or intention. In the rolling hills of Tuscany, there grow vineyards that have been tended by the same families for generations. The vines are so deeply rooted, so perfectly adapted to their soil and climate, that they produce wine of extraordinary quality with minimal intervention. The vintners have learned that their role is not to force the grapes to be something they are not, but to create conditions where their natural excellence can emerge. The finest wines come not from struggle, but from this perfect marriage of rootedness and expression. Your life has become like these ancient vines, so deeply rooted in the recognition of your true nature, that every expression flows naturally from this source. When you comfort someone who is suffering, it is consciousness recognizing its own capacity for healing touch. When you laugh with genuine joy, it is awareness celebrating its own aliveness. When you work with focused attention, it is infinite intelligence expressing itself through the beautiful limitations of human form. Consider how this transforms the most mundane activities. Washing dishes becomes a meditation in presence, your hands moving in service to the simple beauty of cleanliness and care. Walking down the street becomes a pilgrimage, each step taken by consciousness exploring its own creation. Even sleeping becomes a conscious act, not consciousness lost in unconsciousness, but awareness exploring its own depths through the mysterious process of dreams and rest. Your relationships become sanctuaries where the infinite meets itself in the form of human connection. When you listen to a friend sharing their struggles, you are not trying to be compassionate. You are compassionate itself, naturally responding to its own expression through another form. When you offer help without being asked, it flows not from obligation, but from the understanding that serving another is consciousness serving its own well-being. The boundaries that once seemed to separate you from others become translucent, like the surface of still water that allows you to see both the reflection and the depths beneath. You can still function perfectly well in the world of relationships and responsibilities, but you do so from an understanding that all of it is arising within the same field of awareness that you are. Your breathing carries this integration deeper with each gentle cycle. The air you inhale is not separate from your consciousness. Is consciousness nourishing its own form? The air you exhale carries with it the blessing of recognition, subtly affecting the atmosphere around you in ways that others may sense without, understanding why they feel more peaceful in your presence. Even your thoughts change character in this new context. Instead of the constant commentary and analysis that once dominated your mental landscape, thoughts arise more like gentle suggestions, like clouds drifting across the vast sky of your awareness. They may be practical thoughts about tomorrow's schedule, creative inspirations for projects you love, or tender reflections on the beauty of this moment. But they all arise and dissolve within the spacious calm of your recognized nature. Your heart beats now with the rhythm of someone who has found their way home and never needs to leave again. Each pulse carries forward not just blood and oxygen, but the love that has discovered it was never actually absent from any moment. This love doesn't seek objects to attach to, it flows freely in all directions, blessing everything it touches with the recognition of its own inherent wholeness. The night continues to hold you in its gentle embrace as you rest in this understanding of how awakening expresses itself through the simplest acts of human existence. There is no separation between your realization and your daily life, no conflict between your spiritual understanding and your practical responsibilities. They are revealed as different movements of the same dance, different expressions of the same infinite creativity that you are. As you feel yourself naturally moving toward the deeper rest that your body craves, you carry with you this profound understanding. Tomorrow will not be about maintaining or protecting what you have realized tonight, but simply about allowing it to express itself naturally through whatever forms the day offers. Like the sun that doesn't try to shine, but simply cannot help but radiate light, you will move through your day as the natural expression of the love and awareness that you have remembered yourself to be. In this gentle flow of recognition, expressing itself through the tender forms of human existence, you arrive now at the most sacred threshold of all, the doorway into sleep itself, where consciousness prepares to explore its own depths through the mysterious realm of dreams and the profound rest that restores not just the body, but the very fabric of your being. This is not sleep as escape or unconsciousness, but sleep as the natural continuation of the awakening you have experienced. a deeper dive into the infinite ocean of your own nature. Your breathing becomes softer now, each exhale releasing you further into the embrace of this sacred rest. Each inhale drawing you deeper into the source from which all dreams arise and to which they return. The rhythm slows naturally, like a gentle river reaching the calm waters of a mountain lake, finding its perfect pace without effort or intention. Your heartbeat follows this same natural slowing, each pulse carrying you further from the world of doing and deeper into the realm of pure being. The consciousness that you have recognized yourself to be doesn't disappear in sleep. It simply shifts its attention from the waking dream to the sleeping dream, from one form of its own creative expression to another. Like an artist moving from painting landscapes to painting portraits, the essential creative consciousness remains the same while the canvas changes. Your sleep becomes conscious sleep, rest as a form of meditation, dreams as consciousness exploring its own infinite creativity without the limitations of waking logic. In the ancient forests of the Pacific Northwest, there is a phenomenon that botanists call the wood wide web, an underground network of fungal threads that connects tree roots across vast distances, allowing the forest to share nutrients, information, and care as a single living system. During the quiet hours of night, this network becomes most active, with trees sharing resources and communicating in ways that daylight activity cannot detect. The forest sleeps, yet remains vibrantly alive and interconnected in the darkness. Your consciousness enters sleep like joining this vast network of being, remaining connected to the infinite web of awareness, while your individual form rests and restores itself. In your dreams tonight, you may find yourself flying without wings, breathing underwater, speaking with long-departed loved ones, or visiting places that exist nowhere except in the limitless creativity of your own being. Each dream image will be consciousness exploring aspects of itself through the language of symbol and metaphor. But even more profound than dreams is the deep, dreamless sleep that awaits you, that mysterious state where individual awareness dissolves so completely into universal awareness that there is no experiencer left to experience anything. This is not unconsciousness, but the deepest possible consciousness, so unified that there are no subjects and objects, no knower and known, only pure being resting in itself like an ocean with no waves, a sky with no clouds, a silence so complete it contains all possible sounds. Your eyelids grow heavy now, not with fatigue but with the natural weight of consciousness preparing to dive into its own depths. Each blink lasts a little longer, like gentle waves lapping at the shore of awareness, each one carrying you further into the sweet surrender that sleep requires. There is no resistance here, no holding on to the waking state, only the natural trust of someone who knows that what they essentially are cannot be lost in any state of consciousness. Feel how your body begins to dissolve into the bed beneath you, not disappearing but becoming one with the supportive embrace that holds you. Your arms and legs grow heavy and relaxed, sinking into the mattress like stones settling into soft earth. Your neck releases its gentle hold on your head, allowing it to rest completely against the pillow. Your spine curves naturally into its perfect alignment, each vertebra finding its ideal position without any conscious adjustment needed. The room around you seems to expand into infinite space as your ordinary sense of boundaries begins to soften. The walls become suggestions rather than barriers. The ceiling opens to starless skies. The floor becomes the solid ground of being itself. You are held not just by your bed, but by the entire universe. Cradled in the arms of existence itself, as consciousness prepares to explore its own mysterious depths. Your breathing becomes whisper-soft now, each cycle so gentle it barely stirs the air around you. The inhale draws in not just oxygen, but the essence of peace itself. The exhale releases not just carbon dioxide, but every last trace of the day's concerns, leaving you emptied of everything except the pure awareness that you are. This breathing is no longer something you do, but something that happens through you. The universe breathing itself through the temporary form of your body. In this deepening surrender, even the awareness of being aware begins to fade into something so subtle, so refined, that it approaches the very edge of the knowable. You are consciousness on the verge of diving so deeply into itself that all sense of individual awareness dissolves into the ocean of universal being. This is the gift that awaits you in the deepest sleep, not the absence of consciousness, but consciousness so unified with itself that there is nothing left to be conscious of except its own infinite nature. Let your eyes close completely now, if they haven't already, and feel yourself being drawn gently downward into layers of rest so profound that each one seems like returning home to a place you never really left. Your body knows exactly how to sleep, just as it knows how to breathe and how to beat your heart. Trust this ancient wisdom as consciousness prepares to explore itself through the mysterious pathways of dreams and the even more mysterious realm of dreamless sleep. The love that you have recognized yourself to be wraps around you now like the softest blanket, warming you from the inside out as you settle into this sacred rest. Sleep comes not as unconsciousness, but as consciousness, exploring its own capacity for restoration, renewal, and the profound peace that can only be found in complete surrender to what you are. Rest now, dear one. Let sleep take you as deeply as it wishes to go. You are held, you are loved, you are the very awareness in which all sleeping and waking arise. In your dreams tonight, consciousness will play with its own infinite creativity. In your deepest sleep, it will rest in its own essential nature. And in the morning, you will awaken not as someone who has had a spiritual experience, but as the consciousness that you have always been, refreshed and ready to express your true nature through another beautiful day of being human. Sleep deeply. Sleep peacefully. Sleep in the knowledge that what you are is eternal. And this rest is simply consciousness loving itself enough to restore the temporary form through which it expresses its infinite nature. Sweet dreams and even sweeter sleep.